Welcome to episode 25 of Traveling Science. G'day legends, welcome back to Traveling Science, the podcast that's sharing science with the world. My name's Jesse Crow and I'm the Traveling Scientist, coming to you today from Pushkar in Rajasthan, India. I'm a health science communicator, and on this podcast, we interview doctors, researchers, and experts, hearing their stories and sharing their ideas that can help us to live smarter, happier, and healthier lives. Now, I haven't released any episodes for a while now, and I apologize for that. The reason being that I was actually preparing for this 10-day Vipassana course, which is what I'm going to be telling you all about today. If you don't know, Vipassana meditation is this technique that, when executed correctly, is believed to help you improve your awareness and understanding of how you respond to your environment, allowing you to master your mind, boost self-control, and find inner peace. Sounds nice, huh? Well, before I get into this episode, let me start by saying that I am not an expert in Vipassana. I just did a 10-day course, essentially an introduction into this meditation technique. So if you are a Vipassana expert, please don't be upset if I describe anything incorrectly. I'm doing my best. And if you don't know much about Vipassana, please be aware that I'm merely an outsider sharing my personal experience and my scientific opinion in hopes to give you a better idea of what Vipassana is, what are the benefits of this meditation technique, what it's like to do a 10-day Vipassana course, and whether or not you should try Vipassana meditation. I'm going to talk about the emotional roller coaster that's triggered through dopamine detoxing, noble silence, that's 10 days without speaking to another human being, giving up all electronic personal devices, eating the most basic food you can imagine, waking up every morning at 4 a.m., meditating for about 12 hours a day, and being stuck with nothing but your thoughts. Now, that sounds a bit insane, but what if the reward for doing all that was freedom from misery, no more cravings or aversions, mastery of your mind, inner peace, even enlightenment? Well, if that all sounds interesting to you, then grab a cup of chai, get comfortable, maybe cross your legs and close your eyes, and listen and learn all about the science of Vipassana. So I'm going to start with an explanation of what Vipassana is and how it works. And about 10 minutes in, I'm going to share my own personal experience. So if you don't care about the science of Vipassana, you can just skip ahead to hear my story. But I think if you listen to the whole thing, it'll make more sense. Anyway, what is Vipassana? Well, according to the official Vipassana website, the word Vipassana is an old Pali, that's Northern Indian language, word which translates to insight or seeing things as they really are. And Vipassana is one of India's most ancient techniques of meditation, which is believed to have been rediscovered by Buddha around 2,500 years ago. And he went on to teach it to his disciples as a universal remedy for everything. Okay, so it's a type of very old meditation, but what makes it so special? Well, this is directly from the website. They say, Vipassana is a way of self-transformation through observation, focusing on the deep interconnection between the mind and the body, which can be experienced directly by disciplined attention to the physical sensations that form the life of the body, and then continuously interconnect and condition the life of the mind. Practicing Vipassana meditation is meant to reveal the nature of how one grows or regresses, how one produces suffering or frees oneself from suffering. And this leads to an increased awareness and understanding of reality, self-control, and peace. Now let me just be clear, I'm not trying to convince you or convert you into being a Vipassana meditator. I'm just sharing information along with my personal experience. If anything, my story will probably scare you away from Vipassana meditation, but I'll let you decide for yourself. So basically, my understanding is that Vipassana meditation helps you to become acutely aware of sensations around your body. Trains you to feel your heartbeat, subtle changes in temperature, tingles in your muscles, itches on your skin, and pain wherever it might occur. And normally you might react to these sensations. You feel an itch and you scratch it. You feel pain and you tend to that pain. But a big part of the philosophy of Vipassana is accepting the nature of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. Your itch will go away, even if you don't scratch it, and your pain will eventually subside. On a grander scale, your clothes won't last forever. Your job won't last forever. Your life won't last forever. The earth won't last forever. I'm sorry to get dark, but this is the nature of impermanence. We really have no choice but to accept it. So what has this got to do with mastering the mind and finding inner peace? Well, another key part of Vipassana meditation is equanimity, keeping calm in response to anything that may arise. You achieve this by simply observing your body and not reacting to any sensations. As feelings arise, you become aware of them, but you don't respond. Now, that might sound difficult, and it is, but the idea is that by practicing not reacting to sensations like itches or pain during meditation, you will reduce your propensity to react and respond to events in the real world. See, most things that happen in life will cause you to respond either positively or negatively. Maybe you eat sugary food or you drink some alcohol and it makes you feel good. You respond positively. But this can lead to cravings and addictions, desire and attachment, and all of that will ultimately just lead you to misery. Or maybe someone abuses you, or you kick the chair and stub your toe. This makes you feel bad and you react negatively, which can lead to aversion and hatred towards that person or the chair. And aversion and hatred also ultimately just lead to misery. But what if you had the ability to not react to these situations? What if instead you just observe the situation? You eat some tasty food, enjoying it, but you remain equanimous, remembering that this feeling will pass. You're less likely to become addicted to that food. Or somebody abuses you, but you remain equanimous, remembering that these insults are temporary and probably incorrect. You're less likely to develop hatred towards the abuser. And by practicing Vipassana, you may be able to gain the ability to observe without reacting, thereby reducing your likelihood of developing cravings and aversions that lead to that life of misery. And you might say that you don't have any addictions or you don't hate anything, but come on, there must be something you can think of that you can't live without. Maybe it's your phone, or maybe it's the attention of others. Maybe it's a drug. There's always something in life that you're attached to. And there's probably something you hate as well, whether it's your boss, your high school bully, or maybe it's cold weather or hot weather. I don't know. We all have things that we hate, and that feeling of aversion leaves us feeling miserable. We all have things that we really enjoy and that we want more of, but too much of that thing also just ends up leaving us feeling miserable. Vipassana can help one to challenge those cravings and aversions, using impermanence and equanimity to remain calm and find inner peace in any situation. Now, looking at the scientific research into Vipassana meditation, there are many papers out there suggesting that people who do this meditation regularly get a number of benefits. Things like increased empathy, happiness, and well-being, as well as reduced anxiety, depression, stress, and anger. However, many of these research papers are funded by the VRI, that's the Vipassana Research Institute, so it's not surprising that they all boast the positive effects of Vipassana meditation. Furthermore, meditation is generally well known to be beneficial to one's health, whether it's Vipassana or not. Sitting down regularly to rest and relax, breathe and contemplate is good for one's health. It's hard to argue against that. So it's not surprising that most of the research into Vipassana meditation gives it a glowing review. Now, I'm not saying this research is misleading, I just want to share my own personal experience regarding Vipassana meditation. Unfortunately, it's time for me to move on. I have to go catch a train, so I'm going to pick this story up later today. Alrighty, so I'm here in Udaipur. It's about sunrise time, 6:45 in the morning. And this is the only time of the day where it's actually quiet enough that maybe I can share my story without being interrupted by car horns and dogs barking, although you probably still hear that stuff in the background, but just bear with me. Anyway, so my Vipassana experience. I arrived at the Vipassana Center at about 2 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. It was on the outskirts of a small village in the middle of Rajasthan desert.
So it was hot. It was like 30 degrees Celsius, 86 Fahrenheit. And I went into registration and signed up. Gave them all this information and then basically handed in all of my valuables. See, part of the 10-day course involves giving up all your electronic devices. It's supposed to prevent you from contacting anybody in the outside world and to stop you from being distracted from learning Vipassana. And for the same reason, you're also not allowed any creative tools like pen and paper or musical instruments. Now, I don't know about you, but I use my phone a lot. When I'm bored, I read a book or do some research online, do some journaling or play Stardew Valley on my Switch. But when they took away all of my personal devices, I was really just a white boy lost out in the middle of nowhere in India. But that's okay. I mean, at least I could make some friends there, right? Well, no. See, another key part of the 10-day Vipassana course involves taking a vow of noble silence. So for 10 days, you won't speak. You won't even make eye contact with or try to communicate with anybody around you. And they say this is to prevent people from sharing their personal experiences too soon. See, everybody learns Vipassana differently. Everybody has their own experiences and understandings. And if you could talk, you'd likely just end up confusing each other regarding the technique, which would reduce one's ability to practice and learn Vipassana properly. So it kind of makes sense, but let me tell you, 10 days without saying a word is really difficult. And it's this combination of no electrical devices with no friendly communication that creates this form of 10-day dopamine detox during the course. Compared to normal life, a Vipassana meditation course offers very little stimulation for your brain. Even the food you're given is extremely boring. There's absolutely nothing to entertain you for the 10 days except for two things. One is your brain, your imagination, your thought spirals. So have fun with that. And the other is nature. This one's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure that Vipassana centers all around the world are in fairly beautiful places. They have nice gardens, lovely flora and fauna in the area. So can confirm that during the 10 days, I was obsessed with all of the animals and the plants living around the Vipassana center. I think I counted 24 different animal species, from the ants to the pigeons on the wire out the front, to the bulls and the goats in the paddock next door, to all of the different birds in the trees. It was I spent hours just watching these animals live their simple lives. It was great. So anyway, I signed up, I registered, handed in all my valuable items. I go to my room and it's very, very simple. There's like two small beds, the hardest bed I've ever slept on with the worst pillow. Small bathroom with a toilet, sink, mirror, a bucket for showering, cold bucket showers, and my roommate. Had a roommate, which at first I was like, oh, I gotta share a room, but it ended up being quite valuable because even though we're alone and we couldn't talk to each other, it was kind of nice to have some camaraderie, someone else in the room during Vipassana. So I had Enrico, awesome Italian guy and great roommate. Yeah, thanks Enrico, good man. The daily structure of Vipassana was the gong would go off every morning at 4 a.m. Every time something had to happen, a gong would go off and then someone would walk around with a little bell, ringing the bell. This was to indicate that something needs to happen. So at 4 a.m., the gong would go off and the bells would go off, and that's wake up. You wake up at 4 a.m. You've got 20 minutes or so to get ready, and then another gong would go off, the bells would go off, and then that was assigned to enter the meditation hall, where we would meditate for 2 hours from 4:30 a.m. till 6:30 a.m. Most of this was just sitting in darkness and silence. For the last half an hour, there was some chanting in the background that you would kind of listen to and get into this sort of trance. At 6:30 a.m., the gong would go off again, and that would signify the start of breakfast, which was usually something simple like porridge and some chai tea. And then you were kind of free to do whatever you like until 8 a.m., and then the gong would go off again, and that would signify another 3 hours of meditation. So from 8 to 11, we were meditating that whole time with maybe a 5-minute break in the middle. So that's from 8 to 11. At 11 a.m., the gong would go off again, and that would signify lunch. Lunch was usually pretty good actually. Rice, roti, simple vegetable curry, and some sort of savory beverage. I don't know what it was. To be honest, I don't know what most of the food and drink we had was, but it was pretty good. Kept us going. Now on day one, it was kind of like, oh, what is this gruel that they're feeding us? But by day 6, 7, 8, you would really look forward to those meals. From 11:30 until 1, we had free time to do whatever you wanted to do. Wasn't much to do. Maybe you wanted to wash some of your clothes in a bucket, or lie down, have a nap, or you could just walk around the compound. Probably took like 3 or 4 minutes to walk from one end to the other, but this is kind of what we did. You would just walk back and forth all the time, staring at the ground or staring at the animals, or staring off into the distance. Kind of like meditative walking. And then the gong would go off at 1 o'clock, and from 1 until 5, we would meditate for 4 hours with 1 or 2 little breaks in the middle. But yeah, this was always the longest, hardest part of the day. 4 hours is a long time to be sitting still. At 5 o'clock, the gong would go off again, signifying dinner. Dinner was always really simple. Very plain rice dish and this spicy cereal. It was like rice bubbles and cornflakes, but with salt and chili tossed through them. So weird. Again, first day I hated it, but by the 10th day I was obsessed with it. At 6 p.m. the gong would go off again, and this would signify 1 more hour of meditation. And then at 7 p.m. the gong would go off again, and that would signify the discourse, which was usually an hour and a half long video in the evening. And the video would explain how Vipassana works and the philosophy behind it and what we're all doing, why we're doing it. And this was kind of like the most entertainment we got when you're deprived of all technology except for a light bulb, and all you do is meditate all day. To sit down and watch a show for an hour is like a real treat, even if that show is an old guy on stage talking about meditation. Once the video was over, we would have 1 more half-an-hour meditation session from 8:30 till 9 p.m. And then you would go back to your little room, your rock-hard bed, and sleep. Lights out by 9:30 to wake up at 4 a.m. and do it all again. And it went on like this, same schedule every day for 10 days. So I've actually got my journal here, and I couldn't write during the 10 days, obviously, but I came back afterward on the 11th day and sat down and tried to write everything from memory. And day 1 is titled Pain. I couldn't sit still for 5 minutes of meditation. I couldn't. Just pain, discomfort. My legs not good. I'm not flexible. I was constantly struggling, shuffling, changing. And the pain was intense. That 11 hours of meditation on the first day just absolutely destroyed me. And I kind of thought about complaining or talking to someone. I was like, nah, noble silence, I'll be fine, I'll get over it. Yeah, I should have talked to someone. Second day is titled Acceptance, because repeat of the pain from the first day, but worse. I hardly slept because the beds are so hard, my muscles were just aching. And they pointed out that if you're meditating for 12 hours a day, you don't actually need sleep, because your mind is kind of in this non-sleep deep rest. But I'm pretty sure that you do need sleep, even though they said you don't. So they said not to worry if you were having trouble sleeping. But I had a break. During my break in the day, I actually went to the teacher on the second day and said, look, I'm in a lot of pain. And he was like, yeah, so is everyone else. This is normal. Sitting for 12 hours a day is not comfortable for anybody. But he told me to, accept the pain. The pain is not going to kill you. You're not going to break your leg if you stay cross-legged for 20 minutes. And he was right. And so I kind of just with that mental shift, I was able to sit for longer, 10, 15, 20 minutes without moving. And that was a good upgrade from 5. So this is on day 2, even though the pain seemed to be getting worse. He also said the pain would go away. It'll go away. And that to me did make sense. But as you'll see later, it actually did go away. Day 3, struggle. I think the pain was still pretty bad on the third day. And the meditation we were practicing was really just, you were watching your breath. You were just breathing in, breathing out, and focusing on the breath coming in and out of your nose, which doing that for 12 hours a day, 3 days in a row, it's just killer. So boring. It's so easy, and your mind is just like wandering. You're in a room full of other people. Everyone's shuffling around and moving and burping and farting, doing all these things. So it's very distracting. And yeah, I was really struggling on the third day. Day 4 is titled Frustration and Fear. I was getting frustrated that this meditation was just, it was boring, and I at time felt like I was just wasting time. You know, I like to be a very productive person, read books, do things, be active, exercise. But I just couldn't do any of that stuff. Couldn't talk to people, couldn't do anything. I was getting really frustrated. And I was also scared. They were talking about how on the 4th day, they teach you the Vipassana technique, which will change your life, which will lead to enlightenment, which will have this amazing effect. And I kind of got in my head about it, like, what is this? What's going to happen? Is it like some sort of mind control, or is it this bizarre technique that's just going to change my life? I kind of like my life. I didn't really want it to change that much. And that's when I realized that I'd given up all my electronic devices. I couldn't contact anyone. They told me that I can't leave. Nobody really knows where I am. I'm out in the middle of nowhere in a foreign country. I don't speak the language. I'm surrounded by people I don't know. And I'm in this weird kind of cult group. I was honestly scared for my life, and I wanted to run away. But I didn't. Decided to stick with it, learn the technique that is supposedly going to improve my life. And in the end, Vipassana technique, when we finally learnt it, I was like, is that it? It's like kind of like a glorified body scan. I won't try and explain it. Obviously, if you do Vipassana at any point in your life, you'll learn that it's so much more than that. But at the end of the day, essentially it's just a glorified body scan. And when I learnt this at the end of the 4th day, I was a little bit relieved, a little bit less stressed. Day 5 is titled Breakthrough and Back Pain. I was enjoying the new meditation technique, the actual Vipassana technique, engaging, interesting, a bit more exciting than just watching your breath. And I was getting better at meditating. My leg pain was reducing. I don't know whether it's because I was becoming more tolerant of the pain or whether I just killed the nerve endings in my legs. I don't know. But I was able to sit for like 20 or 30 minutes in one position without moving at all, which for me, that was a huge breakthrough. But as my legs stopped hurting, my back started hurting. I don't have a very straight back. I have a pretty crooked slouch back from probably years of watching TV, playing video games, and just sitting at a desk. So to sit up straight for a long period of time, my back muscles were just spasming. So even though my leg pain was gone, my back pain started, and that sucked. By the 6th day, I was miserable. I was stuck, bored, regimented, and isolated. And I couldn't stop thinking about nice memories from the past or fantasies and dreams for the future. And this just boosted my desire to leave Vipassana. But I was halfway. I've already given 5 years of my life. I didn't just want to give up at this point. So I went to the teacher and I asked him for advice. You're allowed to speak. You're allowed to whisper to the teacher. It's the only person you're allowed to talk to. So in this 10 days of silence, I actually did say a few words. But I told the teacher that I was miserable. And he said, well, there's 2 things you must do. And I think this applies to anybody if you're miserable in life. So this is really good advice, so listen in. 1 is to accept your reality. Accept the fact. For me, I had to accept the fact that I'm at Vipassana. I'm here for 10 days. It's been 5 days, still 5 days to go. Accept that. Be okay with the fact. I put myself here, it's going to benefit me. It might be tough, but just accept it. The second thing that you can do is be present. Don't keep thinking about those past memories. Don't keep thinking about the future potential dreams, fantasies. Just be present. Be in the moment, be mindful, focus on what you're doing, and enjoy it. And so I did that. I walked out and said, okay, I can accept my reality. I'm in Vipassana. Cool. Let's be here. Let's do it. Let's be present. And I started enjoying looking at the birds in the trees. And I started looking forward to meditation and sitting for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. So that really helped me a lot on the 6th day. The 7th day is titled Success. So it finally happened. After 6 days of struggling, pain, mental and physical anguish, I managed to sit cross-legged and meditate for 1 full hour without moving. See, after we learned Vipassana, they encouraged us to do aditana, which is 1 hour of strong determination, trying really hard not to move around during meditation for a full hour. And it's really hard. And I was like, there's no way I can do this. But yeah, if you sit and you have a strong willpower and determination, you can sit cross-legged for a very long time and meditate and get into the zone. So I managed to do that a few times over the 10 days, but the first time was on day 7, and it feels really good, especially coming out. You quite, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. How did I do that? And then you hobble around for a while while you get the feeling back in your legs. But there's 2 key words that you learn about during Vipassana. One is anicca, or change. This means change. Everything is changing, always. Inevitable change. Like the itch. If you get itchy when you're meditating, this will change. It will pass. The pain that you might get in your legs, this is just change. It will pass. And by accepting anicca, change, in every aspect of life, change is the one thing that you can rely on. Everything is changing all the time. And by accepting that, you can kind of be equanimous. And this is the other thing that we learnt about a lot, equanimity, the importance of being calm and cool with whatever's happening, or whatever your situation in life. Remaining equanimous is super important if you want to be chill and happy and not stressed and frustrated and angry and whatever. Just remain equanimous. So practicing that during meditation, remaining equanimous to the pain and the itches and all of the positive and negative thoughts running through your head, it's challenging, but I think it offers valuable lessons in life, I think. The 8th day is titled Uncertainty, because I was just so worried. For some reason, the whole time, the whole Vipassana, I just knew the day 8 was going to be bad. I knew that something was going to go wrong. I didn't know what it was. I just expected some painful surprise, downfall, some mental breakdown. The worst thing that happened on day 8 was that dinner was lacking in salt. That's it. It was not very tasty, which is easy fixed. I just put more salt on top. But apart from that, day 8 was actually fine. Pretty standard, same as every other day, just following the routine. And day 9. But day 9, which I thought was going to be the best day, like so close, nearly there, it's titled Still Miserable. And I really thought day 9 was going to be great. It was a struggle. It was probably the worst day, one of the worst days for me. My meditation was kind of going downhill. After doing some really good, strong meditation sessions, I'm starting to get distracted again. My pain was flaring up. I couldn't sit for an hour and remain equanimous. I couldn't do it. You know, my happiness hormones were just drained. My mind was exhausted, and I just started having these really negative thought spirals, and I would just cry, like mid-meditation. I would just start crying, and I don't know why. I was just thinking about, why am I alive? You know, what is the purpose of life, the meaning of life? These are the things that you face when you spend 10 days inside your own head. And these thoughts were challenging. And I guess in a way it's good, it's kind of healthy that you're not just like brushing them under the covers. Oh, don't need to think about that, I'll go watch TV. You're kind of forced to face these thoughts and sit with them. And yeah, day 9, there was a lot of that. It was really tough. I just kept reminding myself that, you know, I'm so close, tomorrow it's all over, you know, this too shall pass. Focus on the present, anything that could help me cheer myself up. And towards the end of the day, I remembered that tomorrow morning, noble silence is over, we can speak again, and it's going to be okay. And I managed to pull through this 9th day. The 10th day is titled The End, Relief. I woke up to the 4 a.m. gong, meditated 4:30 to 6:30, enjoyed breakfast. I felt good and cheerful knowing that it was the final day, and noble silence was nearly over. We did one more sitting from 8 to 9 a.m., and then we learned metta, which is like this loving kindness meditation, basically wishing peace and happiness to all beings in the universe, which sounds kind of lame, but that's what we did. And then when we walked out of there, we could talk again. I didn't really have anyone to talk to because I was one of the only English people there. My Italian roommate, he wanted to stay silent for a little bit longer, so I couldn't talk to him. So I just kind of like walked around and talked to myself for a while. And eventually there was another English guy. I went and chatted with him, and we just talked about how crazy the 10 days had been. And it felt good. It felt good to finally talk again, to share thoughts and experiences. And we did a few more meditation sittings that evening. And then eventually we got all of our devices back and slowly started transitioning back to normal life, speaking to people and leaving the compound where we'd been stuck for the last 10 days. So yeah, it was a lot. Vipassana was an emotional roller coaster. 1 minute I'd be happy, making jokes in my head, thinking of fun memories of the past, making epic plans for the future, thinking about all the people I want to talk about, thinking about all the people I love. And then the next minute I'd just be absolutely miserable, crying over the thoughts of people's funerals, people that are still alive, and just not being sure who I am or what I'm doing with my life. It was brutal to just go back and forth between that, like multiple times a day, every day, and you can't talk to anyone about it. You can't distract yourself with Netflix or Instagram. You just have to sit with it and work through it, which, like I said, it's probably the healthy way to do it, and what most people don't do. You face your thoughts head on, and that's really cool. But it's just doing that relentlessly for 10 days. That's a long time to be in that situation. It's full on. It really is. But I think that overall, Vipassana was a really cool experience. It's very valuable. You learn a lot about yourself, about living life, experiencing the world, reacting to sensations, and trying to just accept the facts of impermanence. Nothing lasts forever. Anicca. Everything is changing all the time. And equanimity. Being okay with that. Being calm with whatever life throws at you. You really get these lessons drilled in, and you come out feeling quite peaceful and accepting of life and wherever you're at with life and whatever you're given. And I think that Vipassana is a good challenge for anybody. It's definitely good for certain people. I don't think it's good for everybody. I think some people might need a 10-day Vipassana course. If you are struggling with life, if you are miserable all the time, if you have strong hatred, a short temper, or anger issues, or cravings and addictions and these urges that you just can't seem to control, I think that Vipassana could definitely give you the tools that you need to work through those and deal with them. But if you're just kind of feeling maybe a little bit spiritual and you like to try something different, and you think meditating for 10 days would be a cool thing to do, just be aware that it is extremely challenging. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And that's what people told me. It's the hardest thing you can ever do. It's one of the biggest challenges you'll ever face. And I thought about that and I was like, yeah, that's cool. But I definitely underestimated that. Because think about it. What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do? Have you run a marathon? Have you worked a 24-hour straight shift? Have you pulled all-nighters? These things were all very challenging in their own way. But they only last a few hours, a day at most. Imagine doing something that's so challenging and it goes for 10 days, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that long, but it's a long time to sit and do nothing and talk to no one. And yeah, 10 days, it's just the time dilation was insane. Like, it felt like weeks, months. So, if you're comfortable in life and happy in life, maybe you don't need Vipassana. Maybe you'd be better off going on a 10-day hike in the woods or doing a 3-day course or something like that. Don't just jump straight into a 10-day Vipassana course unless you're sure that it's right for you. I myself probably didn't do enough research. I didn't know much about it. I was one of those people that was just like, feeling kind of open to trying something new. 10 days of meditation. That sounds cool. Let's give it a shot. I was not ready for what I was hit with, and I'm glad that I did it. I don't regret it. Would I do it again? Maybe not. Probably not. I think I would, if I was going to do something else, I would go on a long 10-day hike by myself. A little bit less regimented, a little more freedom. Can still talk, even if it's just to myself. So, yeah, I probably wouldn't do it again, but some people do it, like 10-day Vipassana courses all the time. There was a person there who had done 8 other courses. There was a person there who came out of the Vipassana course and he was taking a week off and then going back to do another 10-day course. Like, what? Why? Crazy. And it's a little bit culty. It's a little bit cultish. And they say it's not. They say it's non-sectarian. You don't have to be of any religion, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jewish, anything, non-religious. You can still practice Vipassana. But they keep talking about how it was discovered by Buddha and how Buddha was the best and his values are incredible and you should be like Buddha. So they're not telling you to be Buddhist, but they definitely seem to encourage it and hold him on this high pedestal, which, fair enough, he was a great dude. And the other thing I didn't like is they just kept saying that, Vipassana is the answer. It is the key. It'll save you from misery. It will lead you to enlightenment. It'll liberate you. This is the technique that you're learning. And if you do this for the rest of your life, you'll have a great, happy life and you'll do many good things. Alternatively, if you reject Vipassana, if it doesn't work for you, if you don't do this for the rest of your life, you will live in misery. You will have a sad life, and that's that. And you will pass that on to the people around you. So it's not a very great feeling. It's basically like, do this and life will be great. Don't do this, life will be awful. And so obviously you hear that and you think, I want life to be great, so I better keep doing it. And so I feel like they use these kind of like mental tricks to pull you in, hook you. There's also a lot of chanting, a lot of like singing in this ancient language that you don't understand. You don't sing, you just listen to it. But it's pretty frustrating. I don't know what he was talking about, and it's not nice singing. It sounds weird. It does, I'm sorry. And it all seems very outdated. Like the videos that we watch every night are they must have been recorded in the 90s or the early 2000s. It's from this incredible teacher of the Vipassana meditation technique, and he's passed away now. But he was so good, they just keep using his videos. But it's 2024. You got to find someone else. You got to find a new teacher of Vipassana. You can't just have the same videos from the 90s teaching people this technique forever. It's not going to work. So, yeah, watching those old cringy videos where the camera work would just kind of zoom in and zoom out, it looked like it was being played off a VCR tape. There's a lot I didn't understand. I didn't know who he was or anything about Vipassana when I came into it. But that was definitely confusing. Overall, Vipassana, very cool technique, very incredible 10-day course, life-changing, and would recommend it to some people, not all people. And just be aware that it is extremely challenging. Can't believe that I spent 10 days of my life sitting still and meditating. That happened. And Crazy. Anyway, I'll stop boring you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast and learned something about Vipassana meditation. I hope you do your own research. I hope maybe you go and do a course, or feel free to get in touch with me and ask me about anything that I didn't already explain, because I'd love to share the Vipassana experience, and I love sharing science in general. I don't know how much I can get into the science of this. Like I said, most of the science behind Vipassana is from the Vipassana Research Institute, so I don't know how reliable it is. But in general, meditation is good. We know that. Meditation has so many health benefits that you're silly not to do it. And I'm going to keep practicing Vipassana meditation. Maybe not for 2 hours a day for the rest of my life, but I will use this technique going forward in the future. I think it's going to improve my life, and it has the potential to improve anybody's life should they learn to practice meditation. So that's my view of Vipassana. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Really helps other people find the podcast. And I'd appreciate that. I want more people listening so I can keep sharing science with the world. And finally, if you listen along to the end of every episode, I always leave you with a little secret. And this week's secret is that coming to India, I actually missed one of my flights, my connecting flight from Singapore to Calcutta. I missed that flight. I went straight to the gate. I checked in online and then just went straight to the gate. I was just sitting at the gate until it opened. And then when I tried to go in, they were like, you don't have a boarding pass. You need to go through immigration, get a boarding pass, and come back. And I just freaked out. And I ran. By the time I'd done all that, they were like, no, it's too late. Flight's gone. So I missed my flight to Calcutta. So then I had to go and buy another flight, last minute flight to New Delhi, which is on the other side of the country, not where I intended to fly into. That was frustrating, cost me many hundreds of dollars. So not a great start to the trip in India, but anicca, everything's changing. Equanimity, I'm okay with this, keeping my cool, it's all good. So yeah, but if you have connecting flights, make sure you know what you're doing. Don't just go to the gate. Make sure you've got your boarding pass. Make sure you don't be stupid like I did. Make plans and catch your flights. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, legends. I'll catch you all next Science Sunday. Cheers.